Imagine, if you will, a future amongst the stars, a future in which a percentage of, or possibly even the majority of humanity lives off of the planet Earth and someplace amongst the stars. Possibly in a place like Arjun, a hot, polluted world covered in an urban sprawl as far as the eye can see. Or like Diego, a barren, rocky world that harbors riches under its thick crust that could set you on a lucrative retirement for multiple lifetimes if you could just get to it. Or maybe the frozen ice moon of Track, an exciting, if not bitterly cold escape from the day-to-day, where events like land speeder racing occur on special holidays. All of these and more exist on the numerous and varied worlds of the 61 Cygni star system. This could be the reality for the characters that exist in the universe of History of the Future, my very own speculative writing project where I attempt to create a detailed science fiction universe based on real-world data of nearby stars and exoplanets. Today's topic is the 61 Cygni System, a binary star system that in real life sits just over 11 light years away from Earth. In reality, we know very little about the star system. The binary stars of 61 Cygni A and B are both K-type stars, which are a type of star that is smaller and cooler than our Sun. There is also a proposed but not confirmed planet there that has a mass that possibly makes it a completely new class of object called a brown dwarf, which is a halfway point between a really big gas giant and a really small star. Although it may just be another type of super Jupiter class object. In History of the Future, we humans discovered this world as the third planet in the 61 Cygni system, a super Jupiter called Auraria, and its three moons, Heaver, Fjord, and Track. Auraria shares the system with two other planets, Arjun, a planet in the habitable zone, and Diego, a geologically dead world with a fascinating history that surrounds the formation of its single moon. After the building of the first Stargate in the system in the year 2637, humanity nearly immediately began colonizing the first planet in the system, Arjun, and in the preceding centuries it would become one of the most populated worlds out of the entire United Star Systems of Earth. Arjun was originally a rocky world with about 25% of its surface submerged in surface oceans of liquid water. Similar to Earth in many ways, the mild temperatures, strong ozone layer in its upper atmosphere, and a surface atmosphere that is comprised mostly of nitrogen and carbon dioxide, it, to early space explorers, seemed like a near perfect place to colonize. Though very soon after, more habitable planets would be discovered in other systems, a mixture of factors, including a nearby concentration of resources and the early concentration of corporate entities on the planet, made for a place with a low cost of living and high employment opportunity, driving emigration to this planet. Sometime in the 27th century, the USSE, the main governing power in human space, would pass a set of laws protecting planets with Earth-like atmospheres from high levels of industrial pollution in order to sustain their natural levels of habitability, as this became a huge problem on other worlds, including Earth. Arjun, however, slipped past the bill as its atmosphere wasn't considered Earth-like enough to qualify to warrant protecting. The lack of regulation further stimulated the influx of large corporations to the planet who moved much of their polluting industry there. This raised the planet's natural levels of CO2, warming it gradually throughout time. By the 28 and 2900s, when terraformation technologies were recovered from the Qatarians, a race of aliens that we were at war with for a short period of time. Arjun qualified as a possible terraformable world. Although the planet is technically completely habitable in the modern day with a properly breathable atmosphere, most inhabitants will wear low-level respirator masks while outside on the planet, as prolonged exposure to the carcinogens of the planet's atmosphere can be harmful to the lungs and the skin around the eyes, nose, and mouth. Arjun is a mixed bag, to say the least, although it's to this day one of the highest populated points in the USSE. Its population also remains one of the most impoverished and illness-prone groups in the 21st century society. However, the planet also has a lot to offer, mainly to tourists, but also for natives. Pop-up wet markets are common due to the poor regulation from local government that stem from lobbyist groups. Although Arjun does have its own governing bodies in the capital city of Farbudai, much of the planetary councils hold little real power, as they are too integrated with the giant corporations that really rule this world. Arjun and its capital of Farbudai remain, however, a popular vacationing destination due to the historical buildings and parks, its famous street food, and concentration of live and recorded entertainment. The Farbudai Interstellar Space Station remains one of the largest in the galaxy. Diego is a fascinating planet that was discovered alongside Arjun and Auraria. Its surface is sort of famous around the galaxy for its massive crater that makes up much of the northwestern portion of its surface. It is believed that this crater is evidence of how its comparatively large moon was formed. Similarly to how it is theorized that Earth's moon was formed, it is predicted that Diego's moon formed in the same way. About 2.5 billion years ago, an iron-rich body crashed into Diego, sending a third of its mass into orbit around it. Eventually, the debris formed into a moon that, like its parent planet, was now imbued with much of the iron and other minerals from that impacting planetary body. This formed its moon, the iconic crater, and the planetary system's high concentration of resources, all in one swoop. Like Arjun, it attracts a big proportion of industry, but unlike Arjun, its main draw is the huge concentration of rare earth metals under its crust, making it a popular mining hub. Its many cities and settlements are connected by a singular subway system that runs under the crater rim that leads to the planet's only space station, in the city New Sonoria. Diego's moon Carcel was decidedly less popular for mining than Diego. However, it too still has a high concentration of resources. This untapped world and its inactivity eventually led to the miners and companies that had bought plots on this world selling them back to the USSE, giving the federal government sole access to the world. What did the USSE do with its newfound resources? Well, in a controversial move, they built a massive prison on the moon in 2904. For the first 50 or so years of its existence, it was used as a labor camp of sorts, where prisoners would be forced to mine the precious minerals from the moon's crust. This was obviously problematic for several reasons, but eventually the enslavement of prisoners became illegal in the USSE, so now the Carcel Intergalactic Penitentiary remains just that, a prison, acting as the moon's only man-made surface structure. Auraria is a massive gas giant, bigger than Jupiter but not big enough to become a star. Though fusion does not occur in its core, enough heat is produced to give its upper atmosphere Earth-like temperatures. with the upper layers mainly made of nitrogen gas and the lower layers comprised of metallic hydrogen and liquid helium. This gas giant became a perfect place to mine gas on. Though in the early days of space travel, the company New Gas, a starship fuel mining, manufacturing, and distributing company, bought the sole rights to mine gas on this world. In the mid-2700s, they sold to a fledgling competitor, Millennium SFP, that in the modern day not only is the sole gas exporter on Auraria, but also they have their HQ in the relatively habitable skies of this planet. The massive Millennium City sits atop the gas mining rig here, and the population has grown to such a point that many other businesses, as well as individual people, find a home here, thriving in the highly populated city. Auraria has 3 moons, the first of which by distance is Hiver. Like its companions, it is comprised mainly of ice, but due to its close proximity to Auraria, inner geological activity causes hot springs to occur naturally on its surface and thaw their way through the ice. Although the newer springs often have water temperatures that exceed 200 degrees Fahrenheit, the older, more stable springs have water in the low hundreds, cool enough to be withstood by people. Because of the moon's proximity to other populated places in the system, Hiver and its main landing zone, Hot Springs Hiver, have become a super common vacationing spot. With resorts all around the landing zone, in the designated hot springs you can often find people in nothing but their bathing suits and basic respirator masks. Although the moon's temperatures often exceed well below -50 degrees Fahrenheit, the steam from the hot springs makes the relatively short exposure in the walk between the resorts and the springs to be not as deadly as it might otherwise be. There are, of course, springs further away that are just as safe, however they require speeder rides and more protective outerwear to get to. Fjord is the second moon, and it, like Hiver, is composed largely of ice and has a system of running water on its surface. Paradoxically, it is the warmest of the moons, with surface temperatures near the lowlands of the equator that commonly ride between 30 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And as such, shallow rivers of running water create estuarial landscapes that carve across the surface. The polar ice caps, with slightly higher elevations, melt during the summer months, fueling these estuaries near the equator. A few cities exist on higher solid ground near these equatorial estuaries, and they act as the main exporting hubs for the fuel from Auraria above. Though still highly populated, it is the most commercial but least touristy of all of the moons. The final of the moons is Track. Track's surface supports the thickest ice sheets of the 3, but due to the high winds on the moon, the atmosphere has weathered the snowfields flat. As such, these compact and expansive ice sheets make perfect racing arenas for high-speed rover vehicle races. Though relatively seasonal, during holidays the streets of the small settlements on this moon will fill with tourists, and the campgrounds will fill with starships of all sorts, as visitors come to watch the locals race their usually home-constructed rovers. The locals raise money from these events for their communities, and in the quiet off-season, the racers spend cold months between racing events on the moon in their garages building faster and better Land Rovers. The Moon Track, of course, received its name as a shortening of the moniker the USSE's Racetrack. Auraria and its moons Hiver, Fjord, and Track wrap up the last of the bodies of the famous star system 61 Cygni. There are, of course, far more systems and far more worlds to explore in and beyond the united star systems of Earth. But that will be it for today. Next time, we'll continue down the list in order and visit the fascinating lowlands of the moon Eden in the Epsilon Indi system, the moon that marked the first discovery of extraterrestrial life. But that is a story for another day. If you want more History of the Future right now, you can watch the full series using the playlist on the channel. So far, we've visited the Solar System as well as the Alpha Centauri, Sirius, Epsilon Eridani, and Procyon systems. There is also a map and overview video as well as a timeline video if you want to hear the broader story of this world. If you have any feedback or even original ideas that you feel would fit well in a futuristic setting such as this, then feel free to leave any ideas in the comments below. I love reading them, and I feel it would be fun to include some of your ideas in this ongoing writing project. I'll see you next time in our exploration amongst the stars. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it. If you do, then feel free to hit the like button and subscribe to get notified when I upload next.